G'day, Ben from Melbourne here. Today is going to be my top 25 greatest New Zealand bands, according to me, not you. Complain all you want in the comments. This is my list of the bands I dig. So some ones behind me that are notable but didn't make it. Love Split Ends, but there's just like, I don't know, this could almost be the Flying Nun tribute list because that's the shit I love. Last year I did the top 25 Australian, US and UK bands. So if you watch them, you'll know my thing is I have more of like a indie rock, punk rock bent to things. So sorry, people who like Lord, think she's New Zealand. Crowded House, because they're just fucking terrible. Sorry, Morton, but just don't dig them. So anyway, this has already been long enough. Let's get straight into it. So first up, we're going to start with the Stones, the cheekily named Stones. Probably best known for featuring on the Dunedin double EP, famous EP on Flying Nun, which had been reissued many times. And the other better known bands would be the Chills, the Verlaines, and Sneaky Feelings. But these dudes were awesome. They're indie rockers of that era of the early 80s. They come up around that time of those bands like the Chills and the Clean as well. Had a bit more to do, I guess, with Flying Nun because the Chills really wanted to break outside of New Zealand and do their own thing. So they're around from 81 to 83. It conveniently says on the back of this. Just a great indie rock, weird pop band, as you would expect from the Dunedin sound. Next up, we're going to go back to the 60s with the great Chance R&B, just a killer garage rock out of New Zealand. Do a wonderful version of I'm Your Witch Doctor on this. If you do like the sounds of garage rock from the 60s, definitely check out this band. See if you can lay your hands on this compilation called Wild Things. It's kind of like the pebbles and nuggets of New Zealand's 60s garage rock. Very raw, like a lot of Australian garage rock. Next up, we're going with the Great Unwashed. So to give you an idea of the pedigree of the Great Unwashed, this featured the Kilgore brothers, and also what I like about this is it says LP financed by Helen Kilgore and recorded, some of it, the rest at my home, at her house. I love a thank you like that. And also, as usual, great cover art on the back. I like how this one here says mixed here at Progressive Studio, June 83. See, there's the arrow for you there. So you know what you're going to get if you got the Kilgores, a great jangle indie pop with a little bit of every now and then that krautrock droney sound. Brilliant stuff. Probably lesser known stuff that those two are involved in. Next, we've got the Board Games. Not like board games, so Monopoly. Like, I'm so bored. That's that old joke. There's a reason why they're called board games. Who Killed Colonel Mustard? They were a punk band formed by Shane Carter when he was just 15. Who's Shane Carter, you're asking? He was in a few important New Zealand bands such as the Double Happies and Straight Jacket Fits. That's right, it's behind me, and no, they didn't make it. Awesome early NZ punk. Next up, Snapper featuring another legend of New Zealand, the brilliant Peter Gutteridge. Sadly passed away a little while ago. He was an early member of the really early lineups of the Chills and both the Clean. And he also was in the Great Unwashed, which we just saw. And that's right. They reissued a solo album of his called Pure, which came out last year or the year before, I want to say. But yeah, Snapper. This is like killer indie rock stuff, like from, I think it's like about 1990, 1989. Oh, here you go, 1988. Of course, this is on Flying Nun as well. Next, Bressa Creeting Cake, I think. Creeting, yes, that's how you say it. This guy's kind of existed as a avant pop, like bit out there, eclectic tastes. Always got that searching for the new sound without trying to say they're like the Mighty Boosh, and rhythms. So an interesting band. This is a reissue on Flying Nun, where you get like a bonus tracks, and I think might be all of their recorded stuff. Before we make big statements, have a bit more of a research. Moving right along with the Pin Group. These guys were early 80s band from Christchurch, post-punk, awesome stuff. Like a lot of people associate New Zealand and the Dunedin Flying Nun sound in particular with like that jangle, weird indie pop rock, but they had a ton of great punk and post-punk bands like the Pin Group. Really cool stuff. I recommend checking them out. Like there's a ton of their things that have been reissued, which is good to see. Only released a couple of full-lengthers at the time, but as usual with these bands, 7 inches and what have you, to track down and spend lots of money on. Now we're going to have a little bit of a change of style with the Headless Chickens. So unlike a lot of the others coming out around this time, these guys like embraced electronic sounds and drum machines, but were no less weird than any of the others. This is one, I think it's their first record or very early on, called Stunt Clown. Just great band that forged the New Zealand sound in a whole different direction. Just hit myself in the head with that cover. That was really good on camera. All right, what are we up to? The one and only Bird Nest Roys. What an unusual indie rock band from the late 80s. Like a lot of those bands, they bonded over a love of the punk rock scene, and happened in Australia, the US and the UK with what happened next, and you get all those great sort of jangle rock indie bands. Unfortunately, barely anyone knew of them at the time, but since they've been reissued on Flying Nun, and are quite popular amongst the indie rock royalty of the 90s. Now, who we talked about very briefly earlier because they featured on the Dunedin double, and that's the Sneaky Feelings. They're a bit pop, bit rock, bit psychedelic. They actually reformed in 2016 and have put out new music since then. Couple of records is the first one called Send You. Great band. Again, Flying Nun alumni. What do I say about this band? Tall Dwarfs, of course, featuring the great Chris Knox. A band that wanted to make pop songs on unusual equipment and very lo-fi recordings, and pulled it off, I would say. Fantastic band. I think it was last year they put out a retrospective great box set of nearly all of their stuff. if you want to get right down into the lo-fi, the Tall Dwarfs are the go. Back to the 60s with more garage punk and rock, with the La-Di-Dahs, another legendary New Zealand band. Sure, Australia tried to claim them too because they had the great track How Is the Air up there. This is like a reissue of their stuff. I don't know if they released an actual record or if it was just a bunch of 7-inches, but it's got, I think, all their recordings on Real Groovy Records, which is great to see. That's an Auckland label in New Zealand. You can find them as well on this Wild Things compilation. Great garage rock. Okay, the surname Kilgore is amongst us again, and that's the band Stephen. One and only record called Radar of Small Dogs. So this is from 88. David Kilgore continues to pursue his whacked out indie pop songsmith-ism. Great stuff. Those two brothers, if you just see their name on something, just grab it because it's all good. Trust me. Right, now, one of the most underrated bands called Look Blue and Go Purple. This is a Flying Nun reissue, which I think it's got 4 sides, some live stuff, some unreleased stuff, and kind of, what is it saying here? A Nelly full reissue of the recorded works of Look Go Purple. This is probably the one to get because a lot of their stuff's pretty difficult to find. Really, really good stuff. They were part of like the second wave of Flying Nun bands, which included Double Happy's, Straight Jacket Fits, and Able Tasmins. Had that guitar sound, which everyone associates with Dunedin, that jangle and strum, I suppose, quirky sound. Solid beat, somewhat different, this band, because they also had like quite layered harmonies and used keyboards a fair bit, which was, at the time, a little bit different. And a flute even appears every now and then, but don't let that put you off. It's great stuff. Although they never labeled themselves as feminists, they did actually make a conscious decision to seek out other women to play with when they were first putting together the band. As you know, like indie rock and rock in general is a bit of a boys' club, so great to see such a wonderful band come out of New Zealand, which is put together by all amazingly talented women. Look Blue and Go Purple. Next up, we've got the Gordons from Christchurch. Edgy post-punk, sort of semi-industrial sound on this. Members of this band, if this, you don't know this one and you want an indication of the quality, members of this band would eventually join the Great Skeptic, this one here, and form Bailter Space, which are they may be talked about a little bit later on. I think we mentioned them before. This is the Great Able Tasmins, named after a Dutch explorer who is believed to be the first European to visit New Zealand. I don't know if these days that would be a good decision to name your band after a colonialist, I suppose. Anyway, these dudes cross the line between kind of Baroque pop and indie rock, filled with like weird field recordings thrown into the mix there. And also, unlike a lot of the more guitar-based bands, the keyboards were at the forefront of the Able Tasmins. This is a great double LP, which was the reissue, which features the record A Cup of Tea and a Lie Down, plus a heap of bonus extra stuff on there. Fantastic band. There's a CD of theirs, I can't think of the name of it at the minute. But yeah, I'd love to see that one reissued on vinyl as well. Okay, Toy Love. Important band, this one. Yeah, formed out of the ashes of one of New Zealand's earliest punk bands called The Enemy. Toy Love only released this one album and broke up. Apparently they weren't happy with the sound or the way it was mixed, something like that. But yeah, they had a raw punk spirit coupled with that sort of creativity and melody that invoked even weirdly a 60s, 70s pop sound, if you can imagine that. Yeah, they were said to be quite the electrifying live act back in the day by the few who probably saw them. And of course, it features a stalwart, Chris Knox, who could be argued to be one of the most important figures in New Zealand music, and I would probably argue in that way. On you for everything you've done, Chris, bringing out all that great music. I think it was his 4-track that recorded the clean for the first 7-inch on Flying Nun, and he taught him how to work it or something. I can't remember. Long story. Now here's a reissue of the JPS Experience, or the Jean-Paul Sartre. Of course, that's how you say it. This is it's called The Story of I Like Rain. So it's a combination of the Size of Food album on one disc, Bleeding Star, which was my introduction, which they were kind of to me like the shoegaze band from New Zealand in the 90s. Really cool stuff with layers of guitars. And then there's a third disc called Love Songs, and it's got sort of bonus material on there as well. This is a really good set. Pretty much covers all the JPS you need. Great band. Getting down to the pointy end with the Verlaines, probably the most literate band from the initial Dunedin scene era. Fantastic stuff, of course, with the classic track Death in Maiden. Really, yeah, amazing stuff. Graham Downs has been the main guy throughout. They think they broke up or in the 90s, or there was a long time between drinks anyway. And then they got back together. I saw them live. Unfortunately, they were terrible. The couple of songs that they played, which they said this is off their new album, were shit. You know it's never going to be good when a classic indie rock band reforms and it's only the original member, and the dude on bass is like a sauce head with dreads and he's got a 7-string bass. It's always red flags when you see a band and that happens. Anyway, their stuff from the 80s is just classic. Now, what record to choose for Bailter Space? This was kind of like their breakthrough record, I suppose, in the 90s. Whammo. What a band. Just layers of it's jangly and distorted at the same time, with just really driving rhythm section. Cool band. We're based in New York for a little while, I think, when this come out. And I think it is it Splat? Yeah, Splat was the single off this, which got this weird backwards film clip, which is quite enjoyable. But anything by Bailter Space or Bailter Space freaking rocks. Top tier. Oh, and the jangles keep coming. Garageland. Amazing record, amazing band. This is like jangle to the max, driving rhythms, really catchy hooks. They even say Billy Joel's an asshole, if I got the lyrics right. That's what I used to think they were saying, and I reckon that's spot on. Sorry that he had a fall, didn't wish that upon him, but he didn't seem like the kind of guy I'd like to hang out with. Anyway, and it didn't help my dad loved all that shit back in the 80s. But this is, yeah, got finger pops on it. It's actually got the bonus tracks of the EP with What Will You Do, Pop Cigar. Oh, just classic good times with heaps of jangly pop goodness. Oh, baby. one of my favourites and one of the first bands I saw when I moved down to Melbourne when I was a pup at the Punters Club. Saw the Mighty 3Ds. Just a wild sound, like the Beach Boys playing through Black Sabbath's gear, I suppose. Like, they're just overloaded, awesome guitars, weird, quirky songs which have a kind of catchiness to them, but in another universe kind of catchiness. This was their debut, the Venus Trail. Like, just as soon as this opens, when you hear the first track, Outer Space, it'll blow your socks off, baby. What's the blurb say? How's It Poppin' is the first full-length album from 1992. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I told you all you need to know. The top three. You gotta have the Bats. You gotta have the Bats. Daddy's Highway. What album would you pick? Robert Scott played bass with The Clean. The Clean originally would just release a ton of 7-inches and then broke up and I don't think they released a full-length record until like mid to late 80s. And so while the Kilgores went off and did the Great Unwashed and Stephen and God knows what else, Robert Scott formed the Bats. Very much in the classic Dunedin sound, just had a bit more of a mysterious sound to me, but very catchy, very New Zealand, like all of these records. But yeah, this record is amazing just for North by North alone. Classic track. This was tough to put at number 2. Just recently lost him. Martin Phillips of the Chills. It's the brains behind it. Was there the whole way. So many, like The Fall, the amount of people which have been in this band, but always retained that great pop sense in no matter what he did. Brave World's an absolute classic, brilliant band, The Chills. Should have been bigger. This is the sort of stuff that should have ruled the top 40 in the 80s, in my opinion. Yeah, it's got the great Wet Blanket, Brave World, which is the album. I won't read out every single song because that's just ridiculous, but just grab 80s Chills is the best. Last of all, you got to choose them because they were in so many bands, but they're also incredibly influential, and that's The Clean. This is their like Boodle EP. Unbelievable band, influenced countless bands, probably started what was known as that Dunedin sound with that weird, quirky, jangly strum with strangely catchy songs recorded in a lo-fi way. Just absolute legends. The Clean, yeah, and probably Flying Nun wouldn't sound the way it does without them. Just absolutely amazing band. Love them to bits. So sad Hamish is no longer with us, but we have the records to remember him by. That's it. The top 25. You don't like it? Too bad. See you in the next one.